Hello and welcome back to a video in which I speak, which has been a while. Not many of you may know, but I have been busy writing a book. Yes, I have been posting some illustrations and some teaser for it the past year and so, but since it's basically ready to be published and it will be published very soon, I thought I'd do a little Q&A. I already have posted a Masterpost on Deviantart with a lot of introductions of the characters, and I recently did the same thing over on Instagram, but I thought I'd answer some questions sort of relating to the project or just in general questions that you people have asked me. So the first question from Alcatraz Arts is, when did you start drawing centaurs and stuff? Well, I started drawing centaurs basically since I was a kid. Just like as soon as I could hold a pencil, I was like, okay, human hybrids, we love them. So that's basically what happened. I just happened to love horses a lot and people a lot, so drawing them together just made sense. And so that's what I did. And I still love them with a passion because I just love the fusion of two creatures that aren't really that you don't usually blend harmoniously, and I like imagining scenarios in modern times that a creature that usually belongs to either medieval times or just like fantasy times could interact with our modern world. So yeah, I started drawing at an early age. Next question from my friend Frankly Graham. What are the social relations between the species of your world like? Okay, so basically there are three main groups of creatures in this modern centaur alternate universe. Humans, centaurs, and sort of furry in between people. Basically cat boys. Not exactly, but just like they have tails and ears, sometimes also paws, not always, it depends. But basically, centaurs are a minority compared to other bipedal creatures. Humans are the largest percentage of like population in this world still, so there's like a lot of things are mostly oriented towards humans. I do believe that there would still be some sort of racism undertones because like it is within like nature in a lot of creatures to just like have fear of diversity belonging to certain groups. So I do think that there would probably be certain discrimination between centaurs and humans and furries, things. I still haven't thought of a name for them. But basically, like, there are some insults that you don't call those people, that you don't call them animals, or like you don't call centaurs horses. That's offensive. But yeah, since this is set in the modern day, I think there's been a lot of progress regarding diversity and everything, and I'm not sure that the supremacy would still be the same as in our universe. There would probably be some similarities. I haven't really thought about it in depth, despite me absolutely loving going into this world. But I haven't thought about these specific topics in depth because they're not strictly related to plots. Like, unless, of course, like some examples being just like, yeah, homosexuality also is kinda iffy. It's kind of the same situation as it is in our world currently. Yeah, with some discrimination, with like more factors at play. It's like between humans, full humans and like half humans. Anyway, next question by my baby clown monarch. Will there be sufficient gene content? And to that I must answer, probably not in this book. However, I am planning on developing him a bit more. Gene is this character right here. He is a very pretty boy that I do like a lot. I imagine him interact a lot behind the scenes with what is the main character of this story. By the way, I should probably introduce the characters to this story. So, to introduce you all to the cast of this universe, but mainly this book, we have Percy. He, along with the Ryder, this character here is one of the main characters of this book. Basically, the book revolves around their story, how they met, what happens to them specifically. But there are, of course, other characters that interact with them, such as, you know, Jean, which I have mentioned, but he's like kind of a background character compared to others. But he's still like in my head. He interacts with Percy a lot since they're colleagues. There's Karen, which is this unicorn centaur. He plays a role in the story as well. And kind of in this universe, his lore is very specific, but I won't go too much in depth with it, because spoilers. Then we have Tanya, we have Priscilla. Those two are like characters that kind of appear, but have like well-developed characters, along with these other two characters, Corey and Charlie. Corey is Ryder's brother and Charlie is Corey's partner. But yeah, those are just characters that are within the universe but won't really be playing a major role in the story itself. T. Croco asked me, how do you feel when someone compares your characters to real people? I feel immensely flattered because my characters clearly are a reflection of myself, of sides of me. So seeing people relate myself, basically like facets of me, to other people is amazing, you know, feeling that other people like and appreciate my characters as much as I do. It's amazing. It's an honor. So, next question. Again, Alcatraz Arts commented on one of my posts being, why are all your recent characters sex workers? So, when I originally conceived the character of Percy, I didn't really think much of like his role. He was just supposed to be a not safe for work character, just for drawing stuff at random. But as I drew him, I kind of developed his character. So what I thought was like, he could be, like there could be a reason for enjoying sexual activities. And I said it made sense for him to have a job in the industry. Like, I feel like the sex industry has like this stigma about it. Like, you're not supposed to talk about it because, oh, it's dirty and just like sex workers aren't capable of love, or like they'll never have a partner, or just like a lot of stereotypes or just like misconceptions that come along with it. And even if it's not fully explored in the book, since it's not really relevant to the plot, I still touched on it a little bit because it's like Percy's profession, so it clearly has a play in the story. And also Tanya, which is Percy's manager basically, like she runs the place. She has like some lines where she's talking about the profession as well. And like I feel I would like to explore it more because it's something that fascinates me a lot. As a profession, I admire the people who can offer these kind of services. And at the same time, like, I don't feel like it should be considered like this dirty thing that people do out of desperation, just like they need to earn a quick buck. Like, there can be people who do that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, the majority of the industry would like, if someone is in general, if someone is adult, is consenting, wants to do this, just like do it, you know, give them the option. I don't see why why being a slut should be a negative thing, because like the whole sacrality of sex kind of doesn't make sense. So that's kind of something that I wanted to explore with these characters, and that's why I made so many characters sex workers, and also just like a lot of characters in these in these specific Instagram posts were just like Percy's colleagues, just like to set the atmosphere that they won't be playing like a major role again, but I made them all the same. So next question. Patchy 1995 had a lot of questions. First of all, do some centaurs allow humans to transport them for safety and/or transportation even though they are their own rides? Well, clearly centaurs have trouble going long distances to places, and just like even it's kind of like running for humans. Like you could run places, no problem, but obviously it would tire you out, you sweat, and it's uncomfortable and it's unpractical. So I feel like centaurs would probably have an easier time walking around in general. Being just like, sure, if I need to go to like short distance, I will walk rather than take the bus or whatever. But on long distances, or just like if they break something or get injured or something, they would still rely on other people, be it humans, centaurs, or whatever. Next question, do they eat what humans do, but more vegetarian, like bamboo, root vegetables, etc.? Depends on the lower body of different animals. Well, in this case, what connects with also his last question, besides horses and equines, what animals for the lower bodies? In this specific universe, I imagined solely, mostly horses, because like I added a cameo for one of my my friend's characters, which is a deer centaur, but I didn't picture a lot of them, so it's mostly horse lower halves. So I feel like horses are omnivorous. It is not common knowledge that horses also eat like eggs, meat in case of need or whatever. So I do think that centaurs would probably have a more omnivorous diet as well, because I imagine a centaur's anatomy to be just like most of the organs are the same, just like digestive system being in both parts, like human and equine, and like 2 hearts, 2 sets of lungs. So yeah, they would probably eat a lot, but mostly still have an omnivorous diet, not necessarily more vegetarian. And so, next question, how do they build buildings without climbing, but rather stand on 2 legs like bears? Well, I think centaurs would still climb, because like, especially for like tall buildings, the only difference would be stairs, because centaurs would probably have a harder time going upstairs. But in general, like construction sites, tall buildings in general, to build buildings, they would probably still rely on just like typical constructions work, you know, the typical metal structure around the buildings, like bipedals, because like you can like lean up, like if you need to get a cookie jar which is on a high shelf, you wouldn't need a ladder or anything, because you could just like lean up as a centaur. But for taller things, you would clearly not rely solely on that. Another question, how do they wear clothes for lower bodies in horse fashion and for their upper bodies in human fashion? So a while ago I did think of designing some clothes for centaurs, like in general. Like imagining how society views nudity in a way, because like usually centaurs are drawn clothed on their upper body and there's like their lower body being kind of exposed, but that means that they're basically half naked. It's kind of like for a human going around with no pants on. Which made me think, how would clothes work for centaurs? Like how would they cover up their lower body? Like what's the most important part to cover up of their body, which is usually the genital area. The thing is, I did some sketches, but they all looked incredibly dorky, so I was like, for this time I probably will picture, like in this specific context of society, it won't be a big deal. Just like people don't care because it's just a thing that centaurs kind of have a pass on. However, I do imagine like some other parts of the world that are less lenient on these things. So I did picture like some specific clothes that would work for the whole body for centaurs instead of just the upper body, which makes sense because like even just for decoration's sake, it would make sense to also wear something on your lower body, probably just like for the aesthetics instead of like having full functionality. but there will probably be some things that would just like be items of clothing for the horse body. Next question, what's their lifespan like horse years, human years, between horse and human years? Are their lifespans like S-time centaurs, the way they're like centuries old, a longer lifespan than humans and horses? Well, to bring some kind of mild spoilers, the only ones that live that long are the unicorn centaurs, which are kind of a thing in this universe. They aren't very important to the plot because they're supposed to be just like these sort of semi-magical entities which aren't really grounded in the real world, so to speak. That's why they're the only ones that have like an incredibly long lifespan. However, centaurs in this specific universe kind of have the same lifespan as humans do, so around 80 years. They're basically just humans with a horse lower body. So let's move on to the next person, Win, which, as they said, the Masterpost already had a lot of info, the Masterpost I was referring to earlier on Deviantart. What's the rudest thing to say / do to a centaur or animal hybrid person? Sorry, I forgot what you call them. I don't know either. So again, this kind of relates to the topic, the question Franklygram asked. Again, the rudest thing you could call a centaur or an animal hybrid is just their animal equivalent. Like in the case of Gene, my half fox hybrid, he likes this specific quality of his, because also in the English language specifically, foxy kind of has the meaning of being just like pretty and smart or whatever. So to him specifically it's a compliment. It's a thing that other people call him as well. However, if you call a half dog lady a bitch, it's an insult regardless, obviously. Or just like generally comparing the half animal person to their like animal thing can be touchy, so one wouldn't usually do that. The same applies with centaurs. Like calling them horsey boy is kind of degrading, because centaurs are like more conscious, like smarter than the horses. And to continue again with the questions, do humans and non-humans have the same rights? Well, in this specific context, which I imagine like it is some unnamed place in the USA, kind of, yes. Clearly, since centaurs require a lot of space, they will probably have less rights and accessibility, because most of the population is bipedal. So, like in most areas of the world is mostly catering to bipedal creatures rather than centaurs. Like, even if centaurs are like smaller than regular horses, they still like take a lot of space and they can be tricky like to travel. So a lot of places haven't really done any step in the direction to help them or just like accommodate to them, because it's impractical, because you know you need to build more stuff and bigger spaces, and it costs more. So a lot of people say, yeah, you know, who cares, you know. So generally speaking, they just like on paper they have the same rights, but like in practice they're probably just like more not necessarily discriminated against, but yeah, they just kind of there's just like this technical difficulty when it comes to spaces they can be in. Next question. J.K. Rowling also asked a lot of questions. What are your views on things like long distance travel? One can hardly run several hundred miles for a vacation. And this kind of ties in with the question Patchy asked. Again, like clearly running for that distance can be tricky. So yeah, centaurs would most definitely rely on transportation when they can. Probably they would rely on ground transportation more than anything, because that obviously allows for more space, more room to sit in or just like rely on, whereas airplanes can't usually afford that. Or they would pay for an extremely expensive ticket and make it. Horseshoes, pull on, strap on, nailed on. There are advantages and disadvantages to each. Yes, about horseshoes, I think that it depends a lot on where the centaur is. For this specific context, since it's in the city, it's mostly in the city, they do kind of have horseshoes. Like, I always draw Percy and Ryder with horseshoes. Because they walk a lot in the city, and in the city with cement roads and everything. So I feel like they would have it, but there would also be different shoes as a fashion statement, like boots, or like this specific comic that I've been following for a while about this centaur. Basically just like the struggles of a modern centaur, and he wears shoes, which I found very interesting because I said, well, of course, like, we wear shoes, why wouldn't a centaur wear shoes as well? It would make sense for centaurs as well in general to have shoes as well, because as fashion, basically. To continue, what is a typical barber / beauty salon like for centaurs? Well, again, probably big, because it would require a lot of space. This kind of ties into my imagining of a centaur shower, just like a bathroom, because again, they take up a lot of space and they need a lot of water to clean themselves. So I imagined a shower with multiple faucets, so there's a lot of water that gets everywhere. And I imagine that a beauty salon would probably not be a full body thing. It depends. I mean, there'll probably be specific things like for hair and for just like the whole body aesthetics, like there is for humans, but the hair salon would probably also focus on the tail instead of just the head, whereas the beauty salon would I don't think there would be beauty salons separately. It depends probably on the part of the world in which it's set, but like if there is strong discrimination, there would probably be just like specific salons for centaurs and salons for everyone else. But in this specific town, I feel like there would be just like general beauty salons, like different treatments specifically for centaurs and or the half furry humans. Next, how did they redesign grocery stores? Again, just bigger places. Next question, do you prefer your grains straight, lightly processed, a la shredded wheat granola bars, or made into things like bread, cakes, elaborate dishes? Oh, well, that's the thing. Again, it ties into the whole food thing. Centaurs eat the same as humans, so I feel like either would work. Depends on the fitness, probably, of the character eating them. And to finish, are you strict vegetarians or omnivores? Omnivores. Definitely omnivorous. Next and final question by Heavy Toonmore. Does a centaur's tail sometimes get in the way of things? You know, like accidentally knocking something over or getting stuck in shut doors. I mean, probably, definitely knocking over stuff. But again, it's something that I feel would happen a lot more when they're like younger, because you're still getting the hang of your body, especially during the adolescent years. So just like you would be kind of aware of your body just like growing and not really knowing how it's changing, what amount of space you're taking up. But as they grow older, they'd probably be just like, oh, okay, this is the amount of space I take up, this is where my tail is going. And there would probably be a lot of ribbons or ways to tie the tail in for specific jobs. For like going back to the construction site example, they would probably tie it up so it doesn't get stuck in machinery or stuff, or just like cut the hair real short. But yeah, that's basically it. These are all the questions that I got. I hope you like the answers, and I hope you like the book when it eventually drops, which will happen very soon because I've been procrastinating on this video. So basically, probably I'll be posting the book probably the day after this video is released. The book will be available for everyone to read on Deviantart as a PDF because I didn't want to do a paywall for it, because since it's like an extremely niche thing, I said, you know what, it doesn't make any sense to put it behind a paywall. So it's gonna be available for everyone to read on Deviantart. Be aware that it is kind of explicit in some passages because, you know, Percy's profession isn't exactly safe for work. And it's going to be heavily illustrated, it is long, and it took me, like, this project from start to finish started in 2017. And it is now completed. It is done, it is ready for you to hopefully enjoy. And so yeah, this is all there is to say about this project so far. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And I hope you are safe and well. Take care everyone, and see you next time.